What if I told you that some of the most fearsome predators in Earth's history weren't towering dinosaurs, but massive, flightless birds roaming South America with skulls large enough to dwarf your entire head? It sounds like a myth or a lost chapter from a sci-fi novel, yet these creatures, often called terror birds, truly existed. In an era when South America was geographically isolated and free to shape its own bizarre ecosystems, these birds rose to become apex predators unlike anything we see today. But how did they get so big? How did they hunt, and what ultimately brought about their downfall? Brace yourself for a journey into a world of giant beaks, formidable claws, and untold mysteries, where fact often seems stranger than fiction. Long before modern animals roamed the continents, South America was a massive island drifting in relative isolation during the Miocene epoch. This isolation allowed its wildlife to evolve in ways found nowhere else on Earth. Picture a realm where carnivorous marsupials, giant crocodilians, and even bizarre armadillo-like hunters all vied for dominance. There were no tigers, no wolves, and no big cats at the top of the food chain. Those iconic predators hadn't arrived yet. Instead, nature took an unexpected turn. In this primeval theater, new kinds of mammals and reptiles filled the roles left vacant by the extinction of the dinosaurs. Among the strangest of these creatures were the so-called terror birds, massive, flightless avian predators with physical features that evoke ancient theropod dinosaurs, especially when you take into account their sheer size. While fossil records can't capture the full range of their behavior, each uncovered bone has challenged our understanding of how truly formidable these birds might have been. For millions of years, these giant avian hunters thrived with almost no competition from placental mammals, which were still evolving or simply hadn't made it to South America yet. Other native predators, such as the marsupial Thyla cosmilus, an odd creature sometimes likened to a saber-toothed cat, and monstrous crocodilians like Purosaurus, also stalked the swamps and riverbanks. But on open land, the flightless terror birds were in a class of their own. Their domain was a land of extremes, where survival demanded speed, power, and an insatiable appetite for prey. At the heart of this lost world was a genus called Kelenkin. Fossil evidence reveals that Kelenkin had one of the largest avian skulls ever found, measuring about 3 times longer than the already impressive beak of a modern shoebill stork. Just the head of Kelenkin likely weighed more than an entire living shoebill. Imagine a bird standing around 2 meters tall. Some estimates put it closer to 3 meters long from beak to tail, weighing in at roughly 200 to 250 kilograms. That's on par with a grizzly bear, except this predator marched on 2 powerful legs and brandished a massive hooked beak capable of inflicting devastating wounds. Scientists have debated how these terror birds hunted. Some suspect they used a terrifying downward peck and slam tactic, smashing prey against the ground until bones broke and life left the victim. Others suggest they might have scavenged kills from smaller predators, intimidating them with sheer size and aggression. There's also a line of research hinting at more complex behaviors, like possible cooperative hunting or cautious ambushing of juvenile animals whenever they had the chance. The truth is, we still don't fully know which method was the most common, because the fossil record is incomplete, and direct observational evidence is lost to time. Yet the theories alone paint a chilling portrait of a bird that could outpace or outsmart many potential meals. Controversy swirls around how effective terror birds were as apex hunters, given that other savage creatures, like giant crocodilians, roamed the waterways, and imposing marsupial predators lurked in the shadows. Some paleontologists argue that terror birds specialized in certain prey items, such as the young of large herbivores like giant ground sloths, while others believe they might have been more generalist, eating carrion or small mammals when the opportunity arose. This open question fuels ongoing debates and keeps the public fascinated with these ancient behemoths. But one thing is certain: if you were a smaller creature or even a moderately sized mammal, encountering a terror bird in the wild would have been a heart-stopping moment. Their speed is often compared to modern ostriches, which can run at speeds up to 70 kilometers per hour. But terror birds weren't fleeing from anything. They were giving chase. The story grows even more intriguing when you realize that terror birds didn't confine themselves to South America. Geological forces eventually connected the southern continent with North America during the Great American Interchange. Species crossed the newly formed land bridge in waves, reshaping ecosystems on both continents. One genus, Titanus, represents a terror bird that made the journey northern. Titanus was slightly shorter than Kelenkin, estimated at about 150 kilograms, roughly the size of a large jaguar or small black bear. Yet it shared many of the same menacing traits: a massive skull and beak, powerful legs, and a carnivorous appetite. Fossil remains of Titanus have been discovered in places like Florida and Texas, indicating that these avian predators ventured far beyond their ancestral homeland. Questions remain as to how widespread Titanus really was, since there is a significant geographic gap in the fossil record between North and South America. Could there be undiscovered species of terror birds lurking in Central America's layers of rock, waiting to be found? Such gaps hint at potentially shocking secrets hidden in remote excavation sites. At the same time, other predators were arriving from North America. Saber-toothed cats, the true feline variety, canids like ancient wolves or dog-like creatures, and even bears that had moved south. This set the stage for fierce competition. We can only imagine the conflicts that might have erupted over kills or territory. Did terror birds clash with these new arrivals in dramatic fights for dominance, or did they partition their ecosystems to avoid direct confrontation? Scientists may never know the details, but these predatory showdowns undoubtedly shaped the fate of many species in the region. And with any successful migration come rumors of even more distant journeys. Some explorers and local legends have whispered about sightings or remains that didn't quite match known species. While most of these stories remain unverified or have been dismissed as hoaxes, they capture a deep-rooted fascination with the possibility that we might still be unaware of every creature that walked the Earth in ages past. For many paleontology enthusiasts, the notion that unclassified terror birds might have nested in secret corners of the Americas is as thrilling as it is improbable. Still, the enormous gaps in the fossil record sometimes leave enough wiggle room for speculation. Nothing lasts forever, not even the reign of the terror birds. Over time, changes in global climate altered the habitats terror birds depended on. Lush forests and grasslands shifted, and new predators arrived in ever-increasing waves. Placental mammals like true big cats, canines, and eventually ancestral bears, all better adapted to changing temperatures. The terror birds, which had relied on both speed and specialized anatomy, began to face stiffer competition and diminishing hunting grounds. But perhaps the most startling theory is the possibility of direct encounters between terror birds and early humans. Fossil evidence suggests that some terror bird species, like Lalawavis scaglii, existed as recently as about 8,000 to 6,000 years ago, thousands of years after humans first entered South America. If true, then the first human settlers on the continent could have seen these giant predators firsthand, or at least heard stories about them from their forebears. Folklore and indigenous legends sometimes mention giant birds, leading a few researchers to speculate these might be cultural echoes of genuine interactions with real terror birds. Yet others dismiss these connections as coincidental, pointing out that mythic avian figures appear in many societies around the world. Controversy remains. Some scholars argue that the remains dated to more recent times might belong to subfossil records or be improperly dated, while others hold that the evidence is valid. If indeed the terror birds persisted long enough for humans to encounter them, it raises chilling questions. How would Stone Age humans have defended themselves against a creature that could weigh as much as a large bear and run at breakneck speeds? Did small communities band together to hunt these avian beasts? Or were these birds already rare by the time people arrived? We may never fully know, but the very idea offers a riveting possibility that genuine sightings could be buried in the oral traditions of ancient cultures. Yet even the mightiest rulers of Earth's ecosystems eventually fade. Whether it was shifting climates, relentless competition from mammals, or gradual habitat loss, terror birds eventually vanished from the geological stage. And that leaves us wondering, could something so dominant really disappear without leaving more of a mark on history? In the end, these colossal avian predators offer a glimpse of what can happen when evolution unfolds in relative isolation. They weren't dinosaurs, but they came strikingly close in scale and ferocity, bridging the gap between the ancient reptiles of the Mesozoic and the mammalian-dominated ecosystems of today. Even though they perished long ago, their story challenges our assumptions about what's possible in nature and reminds us that life can take dramatic, unpredictable turns. Who knows what else lies in wait within the uncharted corners of Earth's past? So as you ponder those enormous skulls and imagine the thunderous footsteps of a charging terror bird, Remember that our planet's history is full of unexpected twists. So much has yet to be revealed. Unclassified fossils, new data about species we thought we knew, and scientific debates that might reshape our understanding of life's story. Perhaps that lingering uncertainty is the real lesson terror birds teach us. Every discovery opens the door to new mysteries, each more astonishing than the last.